Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at another one of the Druid summons. We already talked about the Ravens and the summoned Spirit Wolves, and now we're going to be talking about the summoned Dire Wolves. The summoned Dire Wolves are interesting because they have some mechanics that might need a little bit of explaining. So one of the things that they changed, by the way, so right off the bat, is that they changed so that you can actually summon the entire tree at the same time. So if you want to summon all of the summons at once, you can, of course, have all 5 Spirit Wolves. You can have all 3 summon Dire Wolves. You can also have the Bear, and you can have the Oak Sage, and you can even have one of the Vines as well. So you can have a relatively large Druid zoo. The Zoo Druid, right? So the Zoo Druid is an interesting thing, but each one of the abilities has different abilities. So let's go over specifically what the Summoned Dire Wolf does that the others do not. So if you read it, it says, summon a wolf that becomes enraged. Eating corpses to increase damage it does to enemies. Eating corpses. So this ability, although it doesn't actually tell you specifically, is actually a double damage effect. So when the summon Dire Wolf eats a corpse, he actually gets basically Deadly Strike, essentially, which doubles the damage that he does, which is pretty darn cool. But you notice that even beefed up completely to its maximum, to the point where I have level, 39 Dire Wolves, they only do about 293 to 336 damage. So not very good. So to get them the extra damage they need, you have to build up the Grizzly. So the Grizzly is where the damage comes from for the Dire Wolves, and then you notice that now the Dire Wolves are dealing 1,479 to 1,696, which is pretty impressive as far as damage goes. And if you add it up, it actually comes up to a lot. So let's actually do this real quick. We'll add up the damage, and we'll see how much damage they're actually doing. So first off, let's add the bottom number, 1,479, to the top number, 1,696. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're going to divide them by 2, which is going to give us the average damage of 1,587. So very nice amount of average damage there. That's per wolf, by the way. So we got to multiply that by 3, so times 3, which gives us an average damage per rotation. If all 3 wolves are attacking a target and they all hit, we will get 4,762 damage per rotation of the wolves. They also can eat corpses, though, which means that they can dish out even more. So this doubles their damage while they are under the enraged effect, which means that we have to multiply the 4,762 times 2, which means that we can get an effective damage out of them of 9,525. This is physical damage, of course, and it is going to be subject to resistances and things like that. But let's say we were utilizing Amplify damage, which is going to effectively double whatever damage we're dishing out, especially if we can get a monster down to negative 100%. Now, I will note that most monsters do tend to have 50% physical resistance in Hell difficulty, but in Normal and Nightmare difficulty, that is not the case, and you will often come across monsters where you can dish out double. It just kind of depends on what you're fighting, how much resistance they have, and whether or not you can put Amplify damage on them. But let's assume, of course, that we do have a monster that is negative 100%. You can multiply the 9,525 times 2, which is going to get us 19,000 damage per rotation on the Summoned Dire Wolves. Definitely a lot more than the Summoned Spirit Wolves are capable of. And I do think that the Bear is a very hard-hitting monster, but the Dire Wolves, I think, are the real powerhouse of the build, because the Bear can only do 4,171 per rotation, whereas the Dire Wolves, the 3 Dire Wolves, can essentially do 19,000 per rotation. And of course, we could double the Grizzlies with Amplify damage too, and say 8,644. But as you can see, the Grizzly still doesn't come close to reaching the Dire Wolf's potential, like full potential, because he does not have the double damage effect. And to show off the double damage effect, let's go take a look at that real quick. It's actually pretty easy. So let's go ahead and buff up ourselves some Dire Wolves. So we've got maximum Dire Wolves. Of course, they also get attack rating and defense per level from the Summoned Spirit Wolves. And let's go play around with their corpse eating ability, because I want you to see what it looks like when they eat a corpse and they utilize that corpse to their benefit. So let's go ahead and kill a couple of these poor little monsters. And there you go. So that is the enraged effect, and it's very obvious. So when the dire wolves are under the enraged effect, they're getting their double damage. And this does give them a very nice effect. And you can actually just kind of wait, and you can see how long this enraged effect lasts. And as you can see, it's gone. But then he went ahead and he ate another corpse. So, I mean, it's relatively quick. But they're going to be eating corpses all the time during the battle. And increasing their damage in this way. Let's actually test and see how long this is. So the next time one of them eats one, I'll count it out. Alright, come on, eat a corpse. One of you guys over here, there's 2 corpses. You guys gonna eat the corpses? Come on, eat that corpse. What about that corpse? Alright, so 1 1,000. 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000, 9 1,000, 10 1,000, 11 1,000, 12, 13, 14, 15. So about 15 seconds. Not bad. The added benefit to this, of course, is that they are eating corpses, which means that you have a way to remove corpses from the battlefield. The Druid actually has a couple ways to remove corpses from the battlefield, by the way. One of them is the Carrion Vine and the Solar Creeper, which both will remove corpses in exchange for giving you life or mana. And then the other is the Dire Wolf, which will also eat corpses all throughout the time while you are fighting. This is a very interesting way to get rid of corpses and can certainly help you in certain situations like Neelathak when he's trying to corpse explode. It will help you versus the fallen and prevent them from being resurrected. In places where you have the monsters that stand back up, like Pindleskin. Pindleskin's monsters just kind of stand back up, and they just, you know, they're just like, oh, you didn't kill me, and you're like, yes, we did. No, well, the dire wolves are going to be eating those too, and they can actually be very, very useful in that regard to kind of just deal with the bodies on the battlefield. I mean, you've got your little wolves just having a snack. They got some nice snacks. All right, they like snacks. Some bones, some snacky bones. Now, of course, the real beauty is when you have your entire army running, right? So you've got your spirit wolves, you've got your ravens, you've got your bear, you've got your spirit, and maybe even you have a carrion vine. So let's go ahead and we'll beef up a carrion vine and a oak sage, and you could take this just about anywhere, and you can do fairly well. One of the main things that I've seen with this particular build is that, of course, it's not exactly the best in terms of taking on monsters that are immune to physical and cold. So if you come across monsters that are immune to both physical and cold, they don't do very well. And it's very interesting to note because I actually really kind of think that each one of these really fulfills a very nice purpose. The bear is obviously a very hard-hitting single-target monster. He does very good versus single targets. The dire wolves are your powerhouse physical damage dealers, and they do fairly well to dish out a large amount of damage to, you know, kind of like the front line. Your spirit wolves are decent damage interceptors. You have 5 of them, so they can do a good job intercepting most of the smaller targets that might otherwise make it through. And they also can dish out cold damage, which can help you versus those physical immune targets. And then the ravens are kind of these incorporeal ghosts that can fly around the battlefield and do whatever the hell they want. And I have noticed that they are extremely useful to, number one, dish out damage to targets basically by stacking them onto them. So when you're fighting just one monster, they stack the damage. And also when you're inside of places where there's a lot of choke points, like catacombs or arcane sanctuary or things like that, where your wolves and your bears and whatnot can't really quite get to the target. The ravens don't really have that issue and can help push the battle forward and make things a lot easier. All in all of them together is really the moneymaker. The next episode will be on the grizzly bear, so I hope you'll join me for that. And one last thing I wanted to point out was that the life of the summons does change from difficulty to difficulty. So, for instance, you notice how the life of the direwolves is 2,397. I believe when I go to nightmare difficulty and normal difficulty, the life of these guys change. So let's go to normal difficulty for dramatic reveal. And it does not. So it no longer is bound by the difficulty settings. It used to be a long time ago, but now it looks like they are separated from that. That was actually one big downside of them in the past, and I'm glad that they've fixed it. As always, I do appreciate you guys watching my videos, even when my videos are dire. And as always, keep watching.